What do the cams do when they stop? When the lights go out on one of the most volatile families on reality TV, we're going to learn a lot about a story that shocked the whole country today. The whole, uncut story of the Gold family from Hardcore Pawn and where they are now, 15 years after they first came to our attention. Do you remember those heated arguments? Customers who are having a fit? The family story that kept us all glued to our TVs? Hold on tight, because what happened after the show is even stranger. A con took Liz Gold's $500,000 in money. Ashley quit the whole family business, and one cast member now makes almost $1 million a year on OnlyFans. When Hardcore Pawn first aired on TRTV in August 2010, no one could have imagined how quickly it would become popular. In the 50,000 square foot American jewelry and loan pawn shop in Detroit, the show was about Liz Gold and his children, Seth and Ashley, as they ran their family business in one of the toughest places in the United States. What was this show's difference from the many other reality shows that are out there? There is tension in a word. The History Channel show Pawn Stars was more educational, but Hardcore Pawn was more dramatic. It showed tense confrontations with customers, family fights, and the dirty truth of running a pawn shop in Detroit. It worked like a charm. At its peak, almost 3 million people watched each episode of Hardcore Pawn, making it one of True TV's most popular shows ever. People in the United States loved the Gold family's brash personalities and straightforward way of doing business. But we now know that reality TV isn't always true to life. Since then, former workers have said that the business was real, but producers would often start fights and even reshoot scenes several times to get the dramatic effect they wanted. In a 2019 interview, Byron, who used to work as a security guard at the store, said that they would tell customers to get excited before shooting. Some people would come in with the stated goal of making a scene to get on TV. But during the show's run, the Gold family rarely denied these claims. But now, years later, the truth about what was real and what was staged is finally starting to come out. I want to know if you've ever thought that some scenes were blown up for the cameras. Write down below which part of the video you thought looked the most fake. Liz Gold made a name for himself as a smart businessman who could tell a fake Rolex from a mile away. The phrase "price is firm" came to stand for the straightforward way he negotiated, which made him a reality TV star. But even the smartest businessman can make terrible mistakes. Liz was in a position that would never have happened on the show in 2018, 4 years after the last episode of the 9-season run, getting ripped off in a complicated business scam that cost him $500,000. Court records from 2020 show that Les was approached by a longtime customer who wanted to invest in what they said was a surefire real estate development project in downtown Detroit. It looked like the right time. Detroit was going through a renaissance. Home prices were going up, and Les had extra money to spend after the show did well. A Detroit business magazine interviewed him, and he said, "I've always been proud of being able to read people. That's how I've made it in this business for more than 40 years. But this guy knew just how to trick me." From watching Les on TV, the con artist had carefully studied him and knew just what to say to get him to trust them. The money had already been taken by a complicated web of fake companies by the time Les realized what was going on. This blow to their finances happened at a very bad time for the Gold family. Now that the show was over, they were getting back to running their business without the cameras and extra money that came with being famous on TV. What was most interesting might have been Les's reaction to what was going on. He didn't try to hide how embarrassed he was. Instead, he told everyone about it, so that no one else would fall for the same scam. This openness showed a different side of the tough-talking pawnbroker that people in America had grown to know. People who work in the loan business say that you have to lose money to learn. According to a show from 2021, Les said, "This lesson cost a lot of money. Just a quick question. Have you or someone you know been scammed?" There is a safe place to talk about your stories in the comments. The constant conflict between Seth and Ashley Gold, who are brothers, was one of the most interesting things about Hardcore Pawn. Their arguments over business choices, management styles, and their future roles in the company gave viewers a never-ending source of drama. But how much of this bad blood between siblings was real? What really happened when the cameras stopped rolling? Former co-workers have confirmed that the brothers did have different ways of managing and sometimes disagreed with each other, but that the show made their disagreements much worse to make them more dramatic. In real life, Seth and Ashley had a much more professional connection than what people saw on TV. Who worked as a clerk at American Jewelry and loaned for 6 years, said that they did have fights, but never like the ones you see on TV. Often the producers would have them reshoot fights with more anger. The real surprise came in 2015, when Ashley quit the family business for good. Fans were shocked because they thought she and her brother would eventually take over. At the time, her leaving was put down to wanting to look for other chances. but there was more to the story than that. According to people close to the family, Ashley was getting more and more annoyed at being played as the difficult daughter on the show. The persona she made up for TV was starting to hurt her personal relationships and professional standing. She also wanted to be an entrepreneur in fields other than the pawn business. This story was made up by the show that I was fighting with my dad and brother all the time, Ashley said in a rare interview in 2020. Actually, I have a lot of respect for both of them, but I also had my own plans for the future. Today, Ashley has changed her life and is now a business consultant who works with family-owned companies. It's funny that she now helps other family businesses deal with the same problems that made her own family business difficult. Her consulting company, Ashley Gold Consulting, helps businesses with things like succession planning and handling internal conflicts. These are things she knows a lot about from personal experience. At the same time, Seth has been given more responsibility at American Jewelry and Loan. He is now helping to open new stores and update the company's website. The siblings say that their friendship is stronger than ever, and that Ashley's time away from the business has made their personal bonds stronger. In an interview in 2022, Les Gold said that knowing when certain family members should go their own way is sometimes best for a family business. Seth is doing great in his job, and Ashley is doing great now. It makes me so proud of both of them. I want to know if you have any siblings. Have you ever done work for them? Was it a mess, or did you make a great group? Share your thoughts below. This might be the most surprising thing to happen after the show. Involves a member of the supporting cast who has turned their reality TV fame into a successful online job on the adult subscription service, OnlyFans. Bobby Jenick was a manager at American Jewelry and Loan and appeared on the show regularly throughout its run. He is said to have built a business on OnlyFans that makes him about $900,000 a year, which is almost twice as much as he made on Hardcore Pawn during his highest-paying years. When you buy something, take the emotion out of it. When you sell something, add feeling to it. You knew about pawn shops, but not the TV business. How did you start watching TV? All of them made it public. We now have because of the show. On the show, Jenick was known for being tough on security and having a no-nonsense attitude. He has now used his fame from reality TV to make a completely different kind of material. Even though most of Jenick's content on OnlyFans is still behind a paywall, he has been honest about his job change in a number of podcast interviews. Reality TV gave me a taste of fame, but it's a double-edged sword, Jenick said in 2023 on the podcast Reality After Hours. You don't know what to do after the show is over. I found a way to connect with people directly and make something that would last. The business-like way Jenick has run his OnlyFans account is what makes his story so interesting. He has built a full digital brand with merchandise, personalized experiences, and tiered subscription models, instead of just sharing content. He did this by using business skills he learned at the pawn shop. The Gold family has kept a quiet, polite silence about Jenick's new job. In an interview in 2023, Les was asked about former workers. He simply said, "Everyone who worked for us learned useful business skills. They can use those skills in any way they choose." Analysts in the business world use Jenick's story to show how reality TV contestants are increasingly taking charge of their own stories and making money after the show is over. Instead of looking for more TV options, many are using their existing fan bases to build direct-to-consumer businesses. Real-life TV stars who are smart know that the show is only the beginning. Jennifer Weiss, a media expert, says, "Building your own brand and connecting directly with people who already care about your personality can start there." Before we go on, I'd like to know what you think about reality TV stars moving to sites like OnlyFans. Are you sure it's a good business move, or just a last-ditch effort to stay relevant? Leave your ideas below. It was advertised that Hardcore Pawn would give viewers an honest look into the world of pawn shops, but more and more former employees and production helpers have come forward to say that a lot of the show was fake. According to Michael Torres, who worked as a production helper on Maddox during its fourth season, 7, about 60% of the customer fights were planned ahead of time or involved people who were hired to make a scene. We'd use both real people who seemed naturally animated and actors who came in and played parts. Reality TV shows often use soft scripting, which means that situations are planned, but conversation is still made up on the spot. Hardcore Pawn took this to a whole new level. For especially dramatic parts, the production team would often look for local talent through acting schools and comedy groups in Detroit. One of the most famous recurring parts of the show was security escorting customers out in a dramatic way. This was highly choreographed for safety and insurance reasons. Devin Williams, a former security guard, said, Those takedowns looked rough on camera, but they were actually well practiced. Even when people were being a pain, we had a duty of care. The famous hold room, which was used to keep particularly difficult customers, was made just for the show and wasn't normally used by the store before shooting started. Even stranger, many of the things that were shown in high-stakes talks weren't actually things that customers brought in. Instead, producers found them because they looked good or could be used in a story. People who were willing to act like the seller on camera would be given these hero things. In the past few years, Les Gold has been surprisingly honest about these ways of making films. He wrote in his autobiography, Beyond the Counter, "Lessons from a lifetime of pawn shops. Was every moment 100% real? No, that's not how TV works. But who we were and how we ran our business were based on real things." Fans' views on the show and the Gold family haven't changed since this was acknowledged. If anything, it's been an interesting look behind the scenes at how reality TV works. Hardcore Pawn wasn't brilliant because it was based on real events. It was that it felt real when it got important. Samantha Peters, a well-known TV critic, talks about the family relationships, the pressures of business, and how Detroit is shown. Even when individual scenes were improved, these aspects stayed true to life. What do you think? Does knowing about these ways the show was made make you feel differently about it? Or did you know all along? Say what you think. Businesses that have been on reality TV shows often have trouble keeping up with the times after the cameras stop rolling. However, American Jewelry and Loan has bucked this trend by going from being famous on TV to being a real business, albeit one with a big tourism aspect. The main store in Detroit is still open today, but there have been some big changes. The company has grown to 5 sites in Michigan, wants to look into franchising in other states. Their online footprint has grown a lot, and e-commerce now brings in almost 30% of their income, compared to barely 1% during the show's run. The main person behind this digital change has been Seth Gold, who has pretty much taken over day-to-day business from his father. In a business profile from 2023, Seth said, "The show gave us incredible brand recognition. The hard part was turning that into a business plan that could last and wasn't reliant on TV exposure." One creative move they've made is to honor their reality TV roots while moving on to new things. The main store has a lot of pawned items and photo opportunities, so it's kind of like a mix between a museum and a shop. They've also made exclusive lines of products, using Les Gold's well-known image and catchphrases to make money, and also wealth. You put one penny in. The Kardashians are another reality TV family that has done really well. A Gatling gun for $50,000, a 40-inch TV, is being brought in. Staff members say that tourists still come to the store years after the show finished, often expecting it to have the same dramatic atmosphere as on TV. People come in and look almost let down when they see that everything is going well. Lisa Chen, who is now the boss, laughed. They want to experience the chaos they saw on TV. The company has also done a lot to help the Detroit community by holding workshops on money management and supporting local business programs. This focus on building communities is a different side of the business than what the show usually talked about. Les Gold is now 70 years. He still comes into the store often, but his job is more of an ambassadorship than a practical one. "I'll never fully retire," Les stated in a recent interview. "This business is in my blood, but I'm proud to see Seth putting his own stamp on what we built." Perhaps most surprisingly, American Jewelry and Loan has become a case study in business schools for how family businesses can leverage media exposure without losing their core identity. Harvard Business School featured the company in a 2022 case study titled "Camera Ready: Balancing Entertainment and Enterprise." Here's my question for you. Have you ever visited a business location after seeing it on TV? Was it what you expected? Share your experience below. As we approach the 15th anniversary of Hardcore Pawn's premiere, it's worth examining the show's complex legacy and lasting impact on reality television, the pawn industry, and the city of Detroit itself. When Hardcore Pawn debuted, it was often dismissed as a grittier copycat of History Channel's Pawn Stars, but over time, the show carved out its own distinct identity. While Pawn Stars focused on history and collectibles, Hardcore Pawn highlighted the raw economic realities facing working-class Americans in one of the country's most economically challenged cities. Television historian Marcus Bell notes, "What made Hardcore Pawn significant was that it didn't shy away from showing the financial desperation that drives the pawn business. In a post-2008 recession, America
that resonated deeply with viewers. The show's portrayal of Detroit remains controversial. Some critics argue it exploited the city's struggles for work, while others felt it brought much-needed attention to Detroit during its most difficult period. What's undeniable is that the show put American jewelry and loan, and by extension Detroit, on the map as a cultural landmark. Former Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan acknowledged this dual impact in a 2020 City Business Forum. Did Hardcore Pawn present the most flattering image of our city? Not always, but the Gold family built a successful business here when many others were leaving, and they committed community members. The show also fundamentally changed how Americans view pawn shops. Before Hardcore Pawn and similar programs, pawn shops were often stigmatized as fringe financial services. The show helped normalize pawning as a legitimate financial option and provided viewers education about how the industry works. For the Gold family themselves, the legacy is deeply personal. Despite the staged elements and exaggerated conflicts, they managed to showcase 3 generations of a Jewish family business thriving in challenging circumstances. Les Gold's father started the business in 1978, and now Les's grandchildren occasionally appear in social media posts about the store, representing a fourth generation. My grandfather would never have imagined our shop would be famous worldwide, Seth Gold reflected in a 2023 interview. But he always taught us that treating people with respect and running an honest business would pay off in the long run. The show's most powerful legacy may be how it demonstrated that reality television doesn't need exotic locations or wealthy personalities to capture audience attention. Sometimes the most compelling stories come from ordinary people doing extraordinary things in challenging circumstances. As Les Gold himself summed up, "We weren't perfect, but we were real." In the end, I think that's why people still care about our story all these years later. Before we wrap up, I want to know, what reality TV shows do you think will still be remembered 15 years from now? Which ones have made the biggest cultural impact? Share your thoughts.